All right, let's see if that fixes it. Yes, that did. That was really weird. Sorry about that. My Starfield stream manager just never connected. All right. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get this show on the road since we already lost like 3 minutes, but let's do all that again. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Starfield Pulse, the Settled Systems #1 Starfield podcast. I'm your host, Rob. And this week, we're going to talk about the news that's happened since Monday. And actually, we're going to roll back and go to September 10th. Because there was one article here that I wanted to touch upon. And this Starfield player has a tip to transform your planet surveys from Eurogamer. Figure there's a hot tip that might come in handy. You can obtain all the planet survey data in Starfield if you find an abandoned research tower. That's according to u/repulsive_show_1664, who popped up on the Starfield subreddit to share their discovery and help fellow Starfielders fast track their surveys. One of the randomly generated points of interest, the abandoned research tower, usually has a computer at the top where you can download the planetary survey data for the planet you're on. Just a tip. So, if you are going to a planet and you find a research tower, make sure to look and see if they have a computer at the top of it. Because if they do, you can potentially get all of the survey data from that planet without having to manually walk around it yourself. This article is from Game Rant. It says Starfield on PC Game Pass has one big disadvantage compared to Steam version. I don't even have to click that article, and I can already tell you they're gonna say that it's mods. Let's click on it and see if it's mods. It's mods. Surprise. No surprise. No surprise there. All right. PC Gamer said that they're finally enjoying Starfield's combat after giving guns a giant buff. Well, thanks, Bethesda, for buffing the guns. Let's read this one. I'm finally enjoying Starfield's combat after giving guns a giant buff. Now, they're not saying Bethesda buffed the guns. They're saying they buffed the guns. So let's see how Morgan did that. Less Borderlands, more Call of Duty, please. My official Starfield background is chef, but for the last 30 hours, I've become a full-time gun collector. I've racked up a respectable arsenal of very cool guns, some favorites being a 6-shooter with sharp angles that look straight out of a Deus Ex game, and a heavy rifle where the reticule is a grid of ominous laser pointers. Those are, in my opinion, some of the best guns. I love them to death. The only thing that's been dragging me down is that no matter how fun they are to shoot, Starfield guns are actually pretty weak. Lethality varies with enemy level and gun stats, but generally speaking, vanilla grunts and pirates can easily eat up half or full magazines of ammo before going down. And you know what? They're not wrong. Early on, enemy players, I shouldn't say players, but enemy NPCs are very bullet spongy. With all due respect to Destiny diehards, dropping pounds of ammo on a single guy is not my idea of good FPS. Yeah, they're not the only ones that have this problem too. So does The Division. So, essentially the same things. Buff your damage output with custom INI. So basically they cheated. So that's how they're having fun. They customized INI files and now they have stronger guns. And that's pretty weak. All right, so let's go ahead and check and see what the news is now. All right, Starfield gets its harshest review yet. Bethesda's game is a shallow ocean. Let's go give that one a look, shall we? Oh. Let's see. There we go. Oh, thank you. It's just what I want a giant Salesforce ad because I don't see that stuff enough at work. Starfield gets its harshest review yet. Bethesda's game is small, a shallow ocean. by Eric Kane, senior contributor. I write about video games, entertainment, and culture. Jim Stephanie Sterling. Should it just be Stephanie Sterling, or do they use Jim too? And I say they because I don't want to assume their pronouns. One of video game media's most well-known and most eccentric critics does not like Starfield. There's a surprise. This may not come as a huge surprise because Sterling has made a name becoming one of the industry's fiercest and most relentless critics. They rarely, if ever, pull punches, and sometimes, even when I agree with Sterling's broad take, I think they might take it too far. Sometimes I sense real anger brewing in Sterling's content, and sometimes anger can blind us, even if sometimes it can also help us see clearly. Such is, to some degree, the case with Sterling's Starfield review, though on many individual points I agree, I'm not sure I could give this game such a poor score. For all it gets wrong, it gets many things right. Sterling, who came out as non-binary in 2020, uses she-them pronouns. Okay, so there we go. They include social commentary at the outset of their Starfield review, writing, "To call Starfield the least broken Bethesda game is akin to calling my single turf the least embarrassing fascist." I'm sorry, this is any single turf. Then again, given how ZeniMax and Bethesda seem to treat trans employees, that comparison may hit too close to home. So essentially that they just started to have a gender-centric review. All right, so they're attacking the game because of their politics, and that's fine. How to get past Starfield's biggest roadblock, bad ship combat. Another Forbes negative article. So basically, and this one's from Paul Tassi, when I talk to people about why they're struggling in Starfield's early hours, one thing keeps coming up again and again, ship combat. This, I would argue, Bethesda's fault, as the system is poorly explained and the ship they give you to start with, the Frontier, is absolutely terrible. I remember starting to play my review copy and being baffled I was getting shredded by low-level spacer ships. I had to actually abort quests and come back later because of it. I have not had that problem, Paul. Maybe it's a you issue? Oh no. All right. It's a common problem. I saw a recent, somewhat gratifying video of Dr. Disrespect getting blown up while dogfighting a dozen or so times. And I mean, honestly, this sort of is the experience. But you can change it. Let's watch this badoosh.
Anybody on my fucking team? I don't know what you want me to fucking do.
Well, couldn't have happened to a nicer chode. I've given various pieces of advice about ships in Starfield in a number of articles, but I will compile them all here and add some new ones. Get a new ship fast. Get these 2 perks fast. You need to buy the upgrade so you're... Paul, find a new word for fast. You need to buy the upgrade so your ship has a rechargeable speed boost and the one which gives you target locking. Even the first upgrade for each of these dramatically changes the entire dynamic of ship combat. Learn how to turn. You may run into a situation where you're trying to find the ship where you're fighting just constantly seems out of reach. That's because you are constantly accelerating. Hey, Data. I think critics, I hear what you're saying. I think critics have a right to, write a review if that's what we expect of them. But if you're not going to like the game to begin with, then yeah, I think if I go into reviewing first-person shooters and I'm not really a first-person shooter person, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for me to write reviews on first-person shooters. So I don't. Learn how to turn. Buy weapons. Thanks for that one, Paul. Buy weapons. Good job. Get a Class C license. That's helpful. Play with a shipbuilder. Also slightly helpful. All right. And then Paul reminds you to go read his books he wrote. Let's see. That was from September 11th. Let's see if anything good came on September 12th. Starfield's best early game gunfight happens in zero gravity. This is something that I could agree with. The zero gravity gunfights are super fun. But because this potentially borders on some spoiler territory, I'm going to go ahead and skip that one. Developer explains why Starfield's NPCs look like they're dead inside. That's a YouTube video. We're not going to watch somebody else's YouTube video. Starfield's official mod tools are coming in 2024. We talked about that last week. Developer explains why Starfield NPCs look like they're dead inside. Let's see, is maybe just an article? Nope, this one's also a video. Not going to do that. Starfield's free on Game Pass, but still topping sales charts. Kotaku, that's a positive article about Starfield out of Kotaku. I don't think we've seen that. So that's pretty exciting. I mean, the article may not be very positively slanted, but at least the title's good. Starfield's free on Game Pass, but still topping sales charts. So this is good to see because that's one thing I was concerned about with the fact that it was going to be free on Game Pass, that they'd be like, oh, we've got 6 million users. So it's, well, how many of those actually paid for the game? Starfield is the biggest Bethesda launch of all time, the developer announced on Twitter, with over 6 million players as of September 6th. Not too shabby, right? 6 million. It's currently maintaining its number 2 position, which it first assumed in August on Steam's global top sales chart. The game is still unable to break Counter-Strike Global Offensive's 11-year winning streak. That's so insane that CSGO has been the number 1 selling game for like 11 years. But it sure is trying its best. It had about 200,000 concurrent players. While that's barely a quarter of CSGO's million concurrent players, Starfield is beating other era-defining Bethesda RPGs. Skyrim at 20,000, and that game is 12 years old. Fallout 4, 15,000, and ESO, 14,000. Starfield dominated the UK's physical sales charts. That's good. Starfield is number 1 in the UK box charts. It's not the biggest physical launch of 2022, but it's almost identical to Diablo 4. That has to be a typo since it's 2023. Throw in Game Pass. This might be the biggest launch of 2023, and that's saying something. Okay, so there is some positive news being reported by Kotaku that it might not just be all smoke with the concurrency about the number of players, but there might actually be some sales that's gone along with that. Here's a good one. Starfield modders are turning Bethesda's space RPG into a Star Wars game. We did talk about this on Monday as well, that you can replace the NPC guards in New Atlantis with stormtroopers. So this is a mod up on Nexus Mods. Hey, Corso. Thanks for stopping in. So yeah, if you're like, you want more fascism in your Starfield, go get yourself some stormtroopers. Speaking of mods, let's see. I'm a mod. Boop. This is courtesy of Healer in our Discord. He made me a flashlight skin. Thanks, Healer. Appreciate it. So if you want to terrify yourself or terrify other people in your game, feel free to mean mug them with my face. It looks like 7 people have already downloaded this. I know one of them was me. One of them was probably Healer. Hey, Mendel, first time chatter. Welcome to the stream. And don't be shy from throwing me your little Prime crown there. I'll take it and give you, and I will trade you a VIP diamond for it. So yeah, it took me a minute because I didn't realize, terrorize the terramorphs with my face. I didn't realize that I had to create a custom INI folder. I thought I could just edit the INI folder that was already in there. And that was not the case. I had to make a new INI folder. But it worked. I was able to actually get it to work. In addition to, it's got 8 downloads, 591 views. So I don't know, that's a pretty low conversion rate. But people are looking at it. It's funny. It's funny. It's a good time. This is the number 1 mod of the year, by the way. This gets my vote. All right, let's get back to the news. Starfield is a bizarrely worse experience on NVIDIA and Intel, says Digital Foundry. Reported by The Verge. This is so funny. The Verge is reporting on Digital Foundry. It's like news sources reporting on news sources. Starfield is one of the most demanding games on PC. that we've seen recently with even the RTX 4090 paired with AMD's latest Ryzen 7080 X3D. The replay value on this game, if you're on console with no mods, probably the New Game Plus. I don't want to get too much into it, but it does change up things. But yeah, so mods will come on the console version roughly at the beginning of next year. So you're looking at about 3 to 4 months. So you will get mods. But as far as replay value, I mean, if you're just into exploration and going and finding Easter eggs from other Bethesda games that are scattered throughout the world, that might be one of the reasons. But if that's not it, then, you're not hurting my feelings if you go play something else. Cyberpunk's coming out like 2 weeks, and it looks like it's going to be amazing. So if you're looking for something else to do, just go play something else and come back in a few months when the mods are there. Yeah, I mean, that is one benefit from the procedurally generated content on the planets, is that it's never going to be the same experience every time. Maybe that's not enough for you, but again, there's a lot there: outpost building, ship building, creating yourself like infinite wealth effectively, and barring that, go play something else and wait until the Shattered Sky, Shattered Stars narrative expansion from Bethesda comes out. Wait till basically January/February when the creators kit comes out, and go from there. All right, I'm going to skip this one. It says every wild Starfield New Game Plus variant that's been found so far. In Starfield, the sun literally doesn't shine on AMD GPU users. I'll skip that. Well, let's see what this one. What does PC Gamer have to say about this AMD bug? Hey, Mendel, thanks for the Prime sub. I appreciate it. Number 91. Maybe we'll hit 100 before the end of the month. I think we can do it. I think we can. Appreciate it so much. AMD says it's aware of Starfield's Ain't No Sunshine. That's a good one. Ain't No Sunshine bug, but currently has no timeline for a fix. It's so goofy. So I don't want to talk too much about New Game Plus on here because there's still people that are following along on this podcast that aren't there yet and don't want that spoiled for them. But if you were to go look at this article, in fact, I will link this article in chat. But I don't want to talk about it too much. If you go look at that, that will tell you some of the reasons to go do New Game Plus. That might have some replayability going through that main storyline again. Yeah, well, if you're doing AMD GPU, you shouldn't be able to do DLSS, so you're going to still have that bug. All right, let's go see what we had on the 13th. Starfield Ending Explained. We're not going to touch that. NVIDIA boosts Starfield performance with GPU driver update. Yeah, so they did a rebar, I believe, update and pushed some more performance. Starfield, okay, so this one's kind of misleading. Starfield Remake, built in 2 days, actually has seamless space travel. This was a really interesting thing that happened. Hey, Hosey, thanks for the follow, man. I appreciate that. This was a very interesting. There's a guy who makes kind of mods. I don't want to say demakes. He's Thrilled to Will is his name. He's made kind of Lego game versions of some other big AAA games like God of War. He basically kind of made hey, Capitos. He made a Starfield Lite in about 2 days. And he's got about a 10-minute long video on it. It's kind of a goof, but he has seamless from surface to space to the next planet transitions. Now, granted, the game is nowhere as in depth. It's more of like a smaller gray boxed vertical slice, but he kind of did it. I don't know, Capitos, if it's desynced or not. I know sometimes my OBS does have some sync issues with the video and the audio, but I don't know if it's super desynced or not. How weapon tiers work in Starfield. This one's courtesy of PC Gamer. Base, calibrated, refined, advanced, and superior. Those are the 5 weapon tiers. It's going great. How are you doing? And they just show some weapons. That was a very underwhelming article. All right. Here's what Starfield's solar system looks like compared to the real thing by IGN. Let's see what we got here. So that is the moon. Oh no, this is Mercury. This is Starfield's Mercury. This is the real Mercury. Here's Bethesda's Venus. There's the real Venus. Spoiler alert, here's Earth. There's the real Earth. You think they'd line them up because this is not... I think that's supposed to be like Africa right there. I'm not sure. I don't think they lined them up. That's the moon. You can tell because the moon's anus right there. Ho, ho, ho. I'm 12 years old. Here we have the real moon. Here is Mars. Real Mars. Jupiter. Real Jupiter. Starfield's take on Europa. Real Europa. Callisto. Real Callisto. There's Ganymede. Real Ganymede. They did a pretty good job of making these. Saturn. Real Saturn. I think they did a better job than what real Saturn looked like. Enceladus. An image of Saturn's moon of Enceladus. Starfield's version of Uranus. A 1986 picture of Uranus from Voyager 2. Starfield's version of Neptune. A shot of Neptune captured by Voyager 2. Yes. Yes, Corso, your anus. Whose anus? Yours. Starfield's model of the dwarf planet Pluto. It is not a dwarf planet. It's a real planet. Maintain this. Composite views of the dwarf planet Pluto with its large moon, Charon. Now, do you say that soft like Char, or do you say that hard like Care, like Karen? So is that Karen or Sharon? That's what I want to know. Those actually looked really good. They did a pretty good job compositing those all together. Respect. Good job, good job. So that's a pretty good one. Let's see what we had to end. And then that takes us to today. What good news did we have come out about Starfield today? Well, it's definitely from the ferry. It's definitely named after the ferryman, ferryman from the myth. Hence Pluto. So I just wasn't sure. So Karen or Charon. Starfield's getting DLSS, an FOV slider, and ultra-wide monitor support, The Verge. Okay, so this is the notes, the patch notes that came out for the first update. I literally saw people make 11 to 12 minute long videos on YouTube about this, and I just it's like 200 words. How do you make that 11-minute long YouTube video. Starfield has arrived on NVIDIA's GeForce Now. Starfield to get official DLS support. I guess everybody reported on that. NVIDIA update to improve PC performance. If you finish Starfield 4 or 5 times, some seriously weird shit starts happening. I've heard about some of this. We're not going to get into it right now, but yeah, some seriously weird stuff starts happening. Starfield's first hotfix is live. Starfield 0 punctuation. I don't know what that is. Starfield announces DLS. So that's the big news of today, that we're getting the DLSS support, a field of view slider, HDR calibration, and more. How much more? Not a lot more. That's pretty much it. And on that note, that's been the half hour for today's episode. I really appreciate all of you that came out to hang out with me. We got like one more week of 2 half-hour episodes each week, and then the following week we'll just do these like however long until people just tell me to shut the fuck up and go home. But I got to keep them short for the next until the 25th, and then they can be as long as I want them to be. But I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out. Y'all have a wonderful night. And if you enjoyed this, remember to, tell your friends. So for those of you guys that are listening to this on your favorite podcast service, make sure to leave a review. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, make sure to hit a like and leave a nice comment. I did leave. So for those of you guys that listen on Spotify, by the way, I do put polls. Speaking of which, let me go ahead and go get the results of that most recent one. So on the most recent episode 16, I left the poll, have you started New Game Plus yet? And we've had 23 votes, and of that, 20 have not started New Game Plus, and 3 people have started New Game Plus. So it seems like the majority of the people are not in any hurry to finish this game, which is one of the reasons why we haven't got really deep into spoilers, because of how many people are not there yet, and out of respect for them. So I think in about another 2 weeks, all bets will be off, and we'll start talking about New Game Plus. But until then, we won't. And I also asked for people to, what did you choose for your background? Reknitzer chose a chef. Samir said he chose File Not Found for the added mystery of my character, also as a serpent's embrace. Liam, not my son Liam, a different Liam, said I chose Bounty Hunter. It was more of just a role-playing choice, but I was not disappointed by the skills. I found the targeting system skill very useful in the first mission in Vanguard Flight Sim. Norton said they went Scoundrel, going more for dash render, less Han Solo. And Mustafa said they went with Scoundrel. So 2 for the Scoundrel, 1 for the Bounty Hunter, File Not Found, and a chef. I went with Long Hauler for my Xbox playthrough, and I think I ended up going with Soldier for my Steam playthrough. And if you're like, why 2 different playthroughs? Well, for mods, right? I started a second playthrough on Steam. That way I could mess with mods a lot easier than I could on consoles. But, all right. So that's really it. Thanks everybody for stopping in. I really appreciate it. I will talk to all of you again next week, Monday, 8 p.m. Central, right here. And until then, have a good weekend. And actually, for those of you that are interested, tomorrow I've got the day off. You'll probably be able to catch me on my other channel, Robin Raps, streaming either Mortal Kombat 1, Lies of P, or one of those 2. So have a great night, everybody, and I'll talk to you later.